Okay, let me try to tell you how it was. It's still hard, even now, to talk about Mr. Henderson without my hands getting a little clammy. I started at Peterson & Co., fresh out of community college, full of beans and ready to make something of myself. It was just a small accounting firm, nothing fancy, but it was a job, and I was proud. Mr. Henderson was the head of our department. He seemed nice enough at first. He had this way of smiling that didn't quite reach his eyes, but I just thought he was a serious, important man. The first few months were fine. I learned the ropes, tried my best. Then little things started. He'd ask me to stay late to finish something, then take credit for it in the morning meeting. Or he'd make a comment about my outfit, not horrible, but just enough to make me feel self-conscious all day. "That's a bright color, Sarah," he'd say, with that little half-smile. I'd just mumble a thank you and try to shrink. It got worse slowly, like water dripping on a stone, wearing it down. He'd find fault with my work, things he'd let slide with Tom or Brenda. He'd call out mistakes in front of everyone, his voice calm but carrying, making my cheeks burn. I started double, then triple-checking everything, my stomach in knots every time I had to hand something in. I wasn't the only one. I saw how he treated Maria from payroll, always making her redo reports for no good reason, sighing dramatically when she asked a question. Old Mr. Abernathy, who'd been there 30 years, seemed to tiptoe around him. We'd catch each other's eyes sometimes, a quick, shared look of, what? Fear? Resignation? No one ever said anything. What could we say? He was the boss. We needed our jobs. This town isn't exactly overflowing with opportunities. The worst for me was when I had a really good idea for streamlining our quarterly reports. I worked on it for weeks in my own time, perfecting it. I nervously presented it to him, my heart thumping. He listened, nodded, and said, "Interesting, Sarah. Leave it with me." A week later, at the big company meeting, Mr. Peterson himself, the owner, congratulated Mr. Henderson on his brilliant new reporting system, my system. Mr. Henderson just nodded, that same smile on his face, and took a little bow. I felt something snap inside me that day. It wasn't loud, just a quiet little crack. I went to the bathroom and cried silent tears I wiped away before anyone could see. For years this went on. Years. My confidence shriveled up. I used to be chatty, eager. I became quiet, jumpy. I dreaded Mondays. I'd have a knot in my stomach Sunday night that wouldn't go away until Friday afternoon. Thought about quitting so many times. But then I'd think about my mom, who I helped support, and the rent, and the car payments. And a little stubborn voice whispered, "Why should I have to leave? I haven't done anything wrong." The thing that finally did it, the absolute last straw, was about my promotion. I was more than due. I'd been there 6 years, worked hard, knew my stuff inside out. The senior accountant position opened up. It should have been mine. He gave it to Mark, who'd been there 2 years and was, frankly, still learning. When I asked Mr. Henderson why, he leaned back in his chair, steepled his fingers, and said, "Sarah, you're a good worker, a very good assistant accountant, but leadership, well, it requires a certain presence. You're a bit too sensitive." Sensitive. After all his little digs, his put-downs, his stealing my work, I was too sensitive. The unfairness of it choked me. I walked out of his office, my whole body trembling, not with fear this time, but with a rage so cold and deep it surprised me. That night I didn't sleep. I kept replaying everything, all the little cuts, all the big ones, and I thought, no more. He's picked on the wrong woman this time. Maybe I was sensitive, but I was also tired. And when you get tired enough, sometimes you find a strength you didn't know you had. The next day, I called a lawyer, just a local guy, Mr. Davies, who mostly did wills and property stuff. I was so nervous my voice shook. I told him everything, years of it, pouring out of me like a dam had burst. He listened patiently, took notes. He said it would be hard. Mr. Henderson was a respected man in town. Peterson & Co. was a big local employer. But he also said, "If what you're saying is true, Sarah, and you have any way to prove some of it, we might have a case for workplace harassment and creating a hostile environment. Prove it. That was the thing. Most of it was his word against mine, his sly comments, his tone of voice. But then I remembered. Emails. He always liked to put things in writing, probably to cover himself, he thought. But some of those emails, read in a certain light, showed a pattern, and my old idea for the reporting system, I still had my original notes, dated, and I started keeping a little notebook after that awful meeting about the promotion, writing down every incident, every date, every word I could remember. I talked to Maria. She was terrified. "Sarah, he'll fire me," she whispered. "He might fire me too, Maria," I said. "But if we don't do anything, he'll just keep doing it. To us, to the next person, to the person after that." Slowly, very slowly, she agreed to write down what she remembered, what she'd seen. She wouldn't testify, not at first, but it was something. Even Mr. Abernathy, when I carefully approached him, gave me a few old performance reviews where Henderson had praised him one year, then inexplicably savaged him the next for the same quality of work. The lawsuit was filed. The whole town buzzed. People I'd known my whole life looked at me differently, some with pity, some with admiration, some like I was a troublemaker. Mr. Henderson, of course, denied everything. He hired a fancy lawyer from the city. Going to court was the scariest thing I've ever done. Sitting on that witness stand, with Mr. Henderson staring at me, that same cold smile on his face, I thought I was going to be sick. His lawyer tried to twist my words, make me sound like a bitter, incompetent employee. He asked why I hadn't complained sooner, if it was so bad. I looked right at the judge and then at the jury, and I said, my voice shaking but clear, because I was scared, because he had all the power, because I needed my job, because people like him count on you being too scared to speak up. But I'm not too scared anymore. I told them about my ideas being stolen. I told them about the constant criticism, the public humiliation. I told them about the promotion. Maria, bless her heart, found her courage and testified. She was trembling like a leaf, but she did it. She told them how he made her feel small, incompetent. The trial lasted 3 days, 3 days of my stomach, churning, of barely eating, of replaying every moment in my head. Waiting for the jury was agony. I sat with Mr. Davies in a little room, just staring at the wall. Then they were back. I remember the foreman, a lady with kind eyes, not looking at Mr. Henderson but looking at me, and she said, "We find for the plaintiff." For me, I just burst into tears, not sad tears, but tears of, I don't even know, relief, so much relief. It felt like a physical weight lifting off my shoulders. Vindication. Mr. Henderson's face went pale. That smile finally vanished. The company had to pay damages, not a fortune, but enough. More importantly, as part of the settlement, Mr. Henderson was required to undergo management training, and his conduct would be monitored. He stayed at the company, but he wasn't the same. The power he'd wielded, that air of untouchability, was gone. People weren't afraid of him anymore. I didn't go back to Peterson & Co. I couldn't. But I found another job, a better one, in the next town over. It took time to heal, to rebuild my confidence. Sometimes, even now, if a boss praises my work, a tiny part of me flinches, expecting the other shoe to drop, but I did it. I fought back. He picked on people for years, thinking no one would ever challenge him. He just happened to pick on the wrong woman that last time, and sometimes that's all it takes. One person finally saying, "Enough." It wasn't just for me. It was for Maria, for Mr. Abernathy, for anyone else who'd ever felt small and powerless because of someone like him. And that feels pretty good.